Okay, Happy New Year, Happy 2024, and welcome to the world that is storytelling. And to set off our year in style, I was thinking of stories that I've picked up out there in the world. And I noticed the Twilight sky, the orangey, bluey, grey sunshine of the dusk here in a January England. And I thought of someone that I hadn't thought of in a while. And this is going back about 7-8 years. I was in Portugal. I'd been hiking the Atlantic Way, I think it's called, and booked into a hostel for the night. And I wanted to talk to people, be social. I'd spent a lot of time on my own in my tent and so on. But unfortunately, unlike most hostels, the people here seemed a bit standoffish, a bit cold. So I thought, okay, I guess I'll just be on my own then. Made myself some food for dinner and sat there on the long trestle table. The other side of it, there was this gentleman with white hair, and I seem to remember these piercing blue eyes, and he was on a laptop. I said to him, do you mind if I join you here? And he said, no, of course, please. And he introduced himself, and I wish I would remember his name. But unfortunately, I don't. He said, how was your day? I said, it was great. I walked from the place I was the night before. Can't remember where it was. I said, great, yeah, me too. I've also been walking. So, interesting. Where you walking to? And he said, well, I'm not really sure. So what do you mean you're not sure? So where have you started from? And he said, the Netherlands. I said, the Netherlands? What do you mean the Netherlands? And he said, well, I guess I'll have to tell you the whole story. Yes, please. And his eyes shone a little bit, and you could see he was thinking back. And he told me that about 7 years beforehand, his wonderful wife of many, many years and himself were planning their retirement. And now they were going to buy a caravan, like all good Dutch people do, and wander about Europe. Feet up on the sand, canoeing down rivers. Until one day she was unfortunately diagnosed with terminal cancer, and within a year she'd passed away. It was difficult. But he carried on working. He tried to comfort himself. And after a while he met someone new, a widow. They bonded over their shared experiences. At some point they got married. As time went by, started planning their retirement. Maybe they'd even get a caravan too. Until one day she too was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and within a few months she'd passed away. And a few days after her death, everything was a whirlwind. And then he got a call from his company, and they said, we think this time you should probably take early retirement. We'll give you a nice redundancy package, but yeah, it's probably time. So there he was. No partner, no work. Sat there at the table staring out the window for hours on end. And then one day, so he told me, he looked out the window at the garden, at the gate, opened his front door, walked to the end of the driveway, walked out and turned left. And walked until he reached the northernmost point of the Netherlands, turned around, walked back, stopped off at his house to pick up a few things, and carried on walking. He walked south through Belgium, walked through France, walking some more, sleeping in churches, sleeping in hostels, sleeping on school benches, wherever he found somewhere to sleep. Walking away the pain perhaps, walking away the loneliness. He crossed the Pyrenees, walked through Spain along the Camino de Santiago. Reached Santiago one morning and thought to himself, you know what, it's time to go home. So he jumped on a train and he went home. A few months later, the pain had got too much again and he felt like he needed to carry on walking. So he went back to Santiago and this time he walked south. Crossed the border to Portugal, walked south through Portugal. This was where I met him. I thanked him for sharing his story. And we bid each other good night. The next day, late on in the afternoon, and it was around getting closer to twilight, I'd hitchhiked earlier that day, so I'd kind of gone ahead and then I was retracing my steps to look for a good place to camp. And I crossed paths with this gentleman again. I was just walking through a little forested glade and I came across him. He said hello, smiled. I walked past, he walked past the other way. And I turned back to see him climbing up a little hillside. When he reached the top, he turned around and waved at me in that evening sunlight. And now often when I see Twilight, I think of him and I wonder if he's still out there, still walking away the pain, or maybe he's found the peace and happiness that he was looking for. And I raise a glass and a wave to that man who I've forgotten his name, walking along the dusty road somewhere. And that's my wish to all of us for 2024. We continue walking, continue along the journey of happiness, dusty roads, and we'll find that place of joy when we get there. And I hope we bump into many, many stories along the way. This podcast is based on the book of the same name, which is all about how stories can help change the world. And that's what we are doing here, one story at a time. Thank you for listening.